freaks pulling up because you saw my little flyer. Welcome. Welcome, you freaky beast. How are you? Welcome to another episode of On the Block with Jen, our Friday episode, which is always Freaky Friday. On Friday. What happens on Freaky Friday, Jen? On Freaky Friday, I have some people pull up that know all about sex and toys and body parts. And when we don't have a special guest, we discuss our own personal experiences about sex and love and body parts and fun times and good times and horrible sex and great sex and the best sex and awful sex. Talk all things sex and freaky. And we reveal a lot about ourselves on Freaky Friday. We're all here to teach and to learn and to laugh on Fridays. It is Friday. We got through the week. We are here. Let your hair down or put it up. What makes you feel better? Unclip that bra, ladies. Get your drinks. I'm doing water tonight because I have to drink a certain amount of water. We all do. So I'm glad to see you here on Friday. Welcome, welcome, welcome to On the Block with Jen. I am Jen, your favorite devil's advocate and YouTube's bad girl. So they say. Don't forget, if you are here partaking tonight, make sure you hit my Cash App to support the show so I could keep the church lights on. And yeah, believe it or not, all of this costs money. So if you guys want to support your girl, hit me on the Cash App if you're catching the replay. Why? Because I could be doing my dishes or my laundry or be asleep and my phone will go cling, cling, cling. And I'll look and I'll be like, oh, they sent me a Cash App and I wasn't even on air. So those are my favorite donations, okay? When I'm not even on air and I get a Cash App. So do that on the Block with Jen. I am also on the Block with Jen on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, and also on the Block with Jen at Gmail. If you're some sort of freak and you want to join us on any panel, but specifically on Friday's panel, which is Freaky Friday, hit me on the Block with Jen at Gmail. You can send suggestions in there, topics, questions, collaboration requests, whatever you want. Interviews on the Block with Jen at Gmail. Okay. Tonight's visitor is a master, but I'll let him tell it because I don't know anything about BDSM. I don't know about submissives and dominatrixes and doms and subs. I'm here to learn, okay, like you are. And if you know more than me, feel free to throw it in the chat or come up on the panel. I have one rule, guys. You have to say it with your face. So if you want to come up on the panel tonight and talk about your freaky lives or anything freaky that falls under that umbrella, BDSM, and we'll get into exactly what BDSM is, feel free to come up on the panel tonight, okay? Tonight's a free-for-all. It's Freaky Friday. So we let it all hang out on Friday, okay? You know, during the week, our shows are really tough. A lot of people are in their emotions and they're angry and they talk about relationships. On Friday, everybody's chill. We talk about the good times that we have with each other, okay? Because all our relationships haven't been horrible. Some of us are in great relationships right now. Some of us are single and happy. Some of us have friends with benefits, okay? And we're living good, full lives, right? So we have to show that side too. It can't be all doom and gloom and what he did to me and what she did to me. Come on, we got to lighten up on Friday. So I'm glad to see you here on Friday. What's up, Pillow Talk with Coco? How are you, doll? Good to see you. What's up, George? Pablo, the real one. Salute, sir. No Saint. ¿Cómo está? See, No Saint is already starting. He's talking about hola, mistress. I think I'm built to be a mistress, but we'll find out tonight. Okay, we'll find. I'm not the pro. Okay, I'm not the professional, but we will find out tonight. Another fun fact is one of our panelists, one of our established panelists, Haran DeMarco, who is Dangerous DeMarco on Instagram. He's a master too, I heard. Okay, but you didn't hear that from me. But he's a master too. So he knows all about the dom and sub, okay? Okay, I'm sure he's well-versed. So hopefully he'll give us some tips and tricks and what it takes to be into that lifestyle because it is a lifestyle, mi gente. So we will find out tonight if we're built for it, okay? My thing is, you know, I'll try it once if I like it. A lot, many more times than that. You know what I mean? If I like it a lot, right? So we will see tonight. I am going to drop the link early, get my people up here, and anyone else who wants to join tonight, hang out, grab your drink, grab your smoke, grab your pillow. You can't smoke on my panel though, okay? because believe it or not, I don't have anything against it, but YouTube restrictions are getting really, really crazy, and they don't want people doing quote unquote drugs on panels. There's all kind of new rules coming out. So more power to you if you smoke the marijuana or the weed, right? Or the devil's lettuce or whatever it is you into, your gummies, your brownies. You just can't do it on screen on the panel, okay? But more power to you. Get your drink on, get your relax on. I just dropped the link. Come on up and let's talk about this BDSM thing. I'll read a little bit of what I researched, but again, I'm not a professional. Can I say that I've been dominant in bed? Fuck yeah. Can I say that I've been submissive in bed? Fuck yeah. But I don't know if that qualifies for the lifestyle, because the lifestyle is a whole other thing. Okay. They are serious. They are suited and booted. They got outfits. They got toys for it. They got tools for it. Right. I don't have any of that. But we will find out tonight if I'm gonna get any of that. I don't know. I could be swayed. I don't know. We'll see. Hi, Brienne. All right, guys. Okay, Coco. Coco said, well, wouldn't you like to know which one I am? Yes, we would actually. We would like to know on Freaky Friday. We would like to know which one you are. All right, guys, let's get this party started. Let's get our panel up here and discuss this. Thank you so much for the early super chat, George Cook. George Cook says, love your sultry, dulcet tones of your voice when you were doing your ASMR thing. Yeah. It's all about the mic, man. It's all about the mic. It like makes you talk like this, right? So let's pull the gentleman up. Now, I do see a lot of fellas backstage who are always very enthusiastic to talk about el sexo, ¿verdad? But I would love to get some ladies up here tonight. I did invite the ladies, but I'm telling you, it's like pulling teeth and twisting arms. It's hard to get the ladies up here sometimes, but hopefully we'll have some ladies come through and they can divulge, right? I have a pretty decent panel. I always have gentlemen on my panel, and this is a safe space. If you girls want to come up here, I'm not going to let anybody disrespect you, but I don't have to do that because these guys are respectful, even when we're talking about sex, which is wonderful, right? We're all adults. We could talk about sex without getting grimy with each other, right? All right, so let me let my guys up and let's get into this. Master DeMarco, is that you?
Good evening.
Good evening. You're going to be in the hot seat all night tonight, buddy, okay?
That's what I'm here for.
Yay. No.
Jesus. Well, he's got some of it down packed.
What is going on?
I figure if I talk about it, I don't want to be recognized, you know.
I'm done. That's it. Freaky Friday is officially finished. That's it. What is happening? Wait. We got come on. We have to see this on the hi. Welcome, No Saint, to our Freaky Friday.
That's the Rey Mysterio mask,
straight from Mexico City.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh my God. So No Saint is in disguise tonight because we don't know what. So that means you're ready to say some shit, right? Because
okay. Definitely.
Only on the block. Only on the block. This is what happens here.
I actually think I'm more handsome with this thing on.
Hey, whatever works. No Saint, whatever works. George, how are you, darling? Georgie Porgy Pudding Pie.
It's the girls and made them sigh when the girls came out to play. Georgie had his way.
Oh, okay. See?
There we go.
George is ready. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Nacho, yes. Nacho Libre. You got some fans in the chat already, No Saint. Well, here we go.
And I love the little symbol there.
The saint, is that
it's a fleur-de-lis. It's saint, but it's a French symbol. It's a Louisiana symbol.
Okay, so we do have a guest coming. And I believe he teaches men how to be dominant. His Instagram page is very, very interesting. It's Mr. Justin. And I'll have him introduce himself and let you guys know what he does and all that yummy stuff. But yeah, he's the real deal. He does a lot of little Instagram reels with instructions and stuff. I find his content very interesting. And I was like, hey, you got to pull up and let's talk about this BDSM stuff. But before, he's actually at an appointment. So I think he's coming fresh off of either beating someone's ass or teaching somebody to beat someone's ass. I'm not sure, but he'll be here right after. So he'll be ready to go. But before that, we got some lube on the panel, okay, to ease us in. Pause. Haran DeMarco.
What's up? What's going on?
Now,
First, one of the things we need to establish with the Dom sub relationship in BDSM. I understand everybody is really hooked on the idea of just whooping somebody's ass or whatever. You know what I mean? But it's a little bit deeper than that. Okay. There's other dimensions involved. There's certain things you have to ask about yourself if you're willing to go certain routes. If you're, it's all well and good until you might have to cross a particular line that makes you question your morals. And that can happen. That can happen. Ooh. So, just make sure that you know who you are and who you're dealing with before you go down particular routes.
Okay, so this is serious business then. This is not just like regular sex play. This is like...
for what I do, I'm speaking of, every Dom has their particular style, certain things are shared, but for what I particularly do, it's serious business because I've been with women who wanted me to replay traumatic moments in their lives, what I mean? So they can use that as a means of controlling the moment that was most traumatic and shattering. There's process. There's a other process involved after the scene or whatsoever that's called aftercare. That's rarely discussed. You know what I mean? You don't just whoop a person's ass and go home. Okay.
Oh, okay. I'm out.
You know what I mean? You don't just put somebody in the headlock, throw them out the window and you go home. Like, that's not advised. You know what I mean? If you want to be personally speaking, that's not how I do things. When you take somebody up, you have to have the know-how and the knowledge to understand how to take them back down.
So what do you mean by take somebody up? Because we're learning tonight. What do you mean by take somebody up?
For instance, one of the things I might do, after a particular session, especially if it's a very intense session, what I'll do afterwards is that I'll give the submissive a sponge bath. Because the idea is that prior to that, you were broken down. So now I'm replenishing you. I'm creating a space where you're being replenished. You're feeling as if though you were snapped in half. You're also having a moment where you're being put back together.
Now, while you're doing this sponge bath, is there conversation?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Pillow Talk with Coco says people who are serious about BDSM, it's not just role playing. Right. It is a lifestyle.
Absolutely.
It is a lifestyle.
Like, for instance, some of the things that I might do is that I might give non-sexual instructions. I'll tell a woman, like, okay, on work Monday, I want to see you actually on Mondays only. I want to see you actually in black alone. That's it. And you're going to wear the black panties that I actually bought you. And I want a photo to be given to me approximately at 9 a.m. on the dot. If I'm not given that, there's going to be consequences involved.
Oh. Wow. So that sounds like the scene from 9.5 Weeks, for those of us that are old enough to remember, which has now been remixed to 50 Shades of Grey. But I'm like, that's 9.5 Weeks. We saw this thing decades ago, right? And Wild Orchid, if people remember Mickey Rourke with his original face. Oh, was that man something with his original face? Let me just say, Mickey Rourke, his original face was really something. So that reminds me of a scene where he gifted her a watch and told her, I want you to play with yourself at such and such time. And then she did it. And how he gave her that watch, when he put it on the table and she was like, hand it to me. Because it was a gift, right? Usually hand people gifts. And he put it on the table and then he said, no, I want to see you crawl for it. So she got on all fours and crawled to get her gift. And it was amazing to see. We'd never seen anything like that before, really. But that sounds like kind of like BDSM-y in a way, or no? Yeah, no, kind of sort of.
It's kinkish, but there's overlap at times, with things, because we also have to understand BDSM also involves, bondage, a number of other things. But there can be light, I would say, light extractions from the lifestyle. They're not necessarily living the lifestyle. One person just could have a dominant, could have just a dominant energy, and the other just has a submissive energy, and they're just, playing on that. It's not officially a BDSM or a DNS relationship.
What's DNS? Because remember, we took the short yellow bus today. We need it all.
DNS is basically dominant sub, and usually when you write it, you have a large D / lowercase s.
Oh, okay, I've seen that before. So let's get it clear. When you say it's a lifestyle, right? Like working out is a lifestyle, meaning that
Right.
that is my lifestyle. It's part of me going to work and me, whatever other hobby I have, or me, it's part of my life. How is BDSM part of your lifestyle? Does that mean that you only engage in sexual intercourse and intimacy via BDSM?
No, it means also outside of the bedroom, there's certain instructions. Like, for instance, if we're out in public, you can call me by my given name, but when no one's around, you refer to me as master.
Master.
Yeah, that's how you refer to me. When we're alone together, that's how you refer to me. When we're out in the street, I don't want anybody to know, the intricacies of our situation. I don't want to answer any questions.
Yeah.
No, saying it's killing me.
Hey, Jen, if I could ask him a question, I got to first, Ron, how are you doing, man?
Yes,
Hope you're
hey,
doing
man, how you
well.
doing, George? Yeah.
I'm doing well. Hey, man.
Yeah.
I'm a relative noob to BDSM. I'm with a professional femdom, and one of the things that I've kind of, as I began my study in this, is that how the issue of honorific titles, where like if you're at the kink bar, people coming up that want to be your sub, you haven't had the first conversation. Do you allow them to address you as master, or you tell them, hey, look, until we have that conversation about whether you're going to be good for me or not, you call me by my name? Or I don't know how, some DOMs that I've heard of, they're like, they keep you, they're like, no, this relationship is very significant. You just don't throw around mistress and master and goddess, just to anybody, so what's your take on that?
Oh, absolutely. Before, I don't just take on the sub. This is not an ego thing for me. I can exist outside of the lifestyle and have a great time, and have sex. But when we're talking about the lifestyle, I got to interview you. I literally have to interview you. I have to learn more about you. I need to know about your kinks, your traumas, your everything, because there's going to be things that I'm going to do to you that might trigger something.
Yeah, I had to.
If you go ahead, George.
Yeah, I had to go through a similar thing with my Dom, and and she, just for grins and giggles, I'm sure you're going to cover this. I'm a switch. I'm a masochist.
Oh, okay. And a sadist.
Yeah, I'm a masochist. Okay. And what's the other one? I'm sadist. A brat.
You're a brat. Oh, yeah, you're a brat. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense.
You're going to have to.
Jen's a brat. Jen's a brat, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Just tell me you don't wear diapers. That's all I want to know.
Wait a minute. Well, hold on. First of all, let's go. I'm one of those. I learn slow, right? I learn good, but I learn slow, right? So there are a lot of people watching who are like, I don't know what this is. I'm here to learn. So let's just go from the basic research I did, right? BDSM is an umbrella term that refers to a spectrum of sexual behaviors and preferences that can be divvied up into the groups of bondage and discipline, domination and submission, sadism, and masochism. Although some people think that BDSM is kinky, in some cases it doesn't have to involve sex at all. The mental connotations
That's true.
the mental connotations of some acts are more of a turn on than prelude of a particular act leading to sex. So you mentioned a couple things. Well, George and you, Haran, a sadist, a masochist, a brat. What is that? I mean, I'm a brat all day, every day, but what does that mean in BDSM?
Well, a masochist is essentially, I'm just going to put it in simple terms. A masochist is the person who looks forward to pain. It's the person that looks forward to getting their ass beat.
Okay.
You know what I mean? They get off on that. A lot of
Okay.
times in these movies, when you see the dom, the mistress, and she's just literally just fucking some dude up. You know what I mean? He's a
Stepping on
master.
them.
Yeah,
Kicking him in the
stepping on him,
nuts.
doing all that. And he's like more, or whatever. I mean, a lot of that is not necessarily over the top, you know, trust me, but you know, in that situation, the man is the masochist and the woman
Okay.
would be considered the sadist. Now, if you don't have, here's the thing, you have to have some degree of sadism, you know, naturally in you in order to really effectively pull off a lot of the kinks that are required in some of these scenes, and especially in a DNS relationship.
Mhm.
You have to, because there's a degree where, like, for instance, if I had a brat, you know what I mean, and you know, she's acting up and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? One of the things that I would do is I quickly just grab her by the back of her neck and
Mhm.
pull her in slowly and basically remind her and ask her, who do you belong to?
Mhm.
And then a brat usually says, you know what I mean, she'll try to deny it because she wants to feel the pain. She wants to, you know, go through the whole situation of submitting. So I would
Interesting.
squeeze, or, you know what I mean, I basically, while I'm squeezing the back of her neck, I'll also play with her clitoris, you know, so on and
Oh,
so forth. So things
okay.
like that, you know, are some of the
Jen's
things I went
reaction.
through.
Hey, I'm here. Hey, Coco, do you want to come up?
And
Coco
Coco is
said
right.
Where's
Coco is right
Lily
in
at?
saying that.
Lily is working. Mama is working, but she'll be here tomorrow. I usually don't go on Saturdays, but she's bummed about missing tonight, so we're going to do another show tomorrow. Coco
Okay.
says people can also live a dominant, submissive lifestyle without having it be BDSM. They could just desire the roles they play for dominant and submissive and have it not be mainly sexual. I did want to ask about the sexual side of it because, oh, here's Brienne. Hi, Mama. Ooh, Brienne. Okay. I love it.
It's a nice look.
Very nice.
You. Hello, everybody.
Hello, Mama.
Hello.
Brienne is here to school everybody. Just because I'm a new mama don't mean
I'm
I
telling
don't
you.
get spicy, okay?
Mama.
Yes.
Oh.
So I did want to ask about that, Haran, because how much of it is actual intercourse, right? Like how this would be my dilemma with BDSM, right? If
I think zero.
I ventured into it,
Mhm.
I don't know how I would be able to separate, like, hey, now I'm well oiled and turned on. What do you mean we're not having sex?
Well, here's the thing. Here's the funny thing about it. It's entirely dependent on you and your partner, you and your
Okay.
dominant, how you move. But
Mhm.
that situation that you gave there,
Mhm.
sometimes people want to just go just to the point where they're just hot and bothered, and
Mhm.
that's it. They get
Mm.
off on that. They
Oh.
get off on just, you know what I mean, wanting the feeling of releasing, but they don't.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Some people actually do get off on that. But in terms
Isn't
of,
that torture? That's like torture.
that's what I'm saying though. They're torturing themselves. That's an element of masochism.
Okay, I
that
get
they're
it.
actually using that component, that mechanism right there.
Now,
And they want
do they go take care of themselves after? Like after their little session, do they go
to.
take care of themselves?
Some do. Some just want to. Some just want that buildup, and they do nothing
Um,
with it. They do absolutely
mm,
nothing with it. And yeah, there's times, during situations like that where the submissive might ask the orgasm. They might literally say, "Can I come, master?" And then
oh,
you can say, no, and then they have to hold it in, and they'll
holy.
have to, and they have to hold it in, and then sometimes I'll do it to a point, depending, but sometimes I'll do it to a point where I'll just have them hold it in until they can't hold it in anymore, and then they just burst
Because
like a pipe.
that would be my fear. Let's say if I wanted to be
Hmm.
a dominatrix or a
Hmm.
sadist, is that the same thing?
Yeah, dominatrix would be the same thing as the sadist.
Okay, so that would be kind of like my reservation where it's like, here I am, you know what I mean, in my little
Mhm.
outfit, whooping on somebody, and then he'll want to like have sex, and I'm like, that's not what I do. I'm just here to whip on you. Like,
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. If that's the case, then you have to establish that in the beginning.
Hmm.
Things have to
Yeah.
be established in the beginning. Things like safe words, things like boundaries. Like I said, this isn't just whooping somebody's ass. You know what I mean?
darn.
You might just elbow somebody, and they like, I'm not into elbows, man. Like, you know what I mean?
Okay, so
It's
on that note, I do see our guest backstage, and let me bring him up. Here is Mr. Justin. How are you?
Hey, Jen. Hey, everyone.
Hey.
Hello.
hey,
Hey.
brother, how you doing?
Hi. Thank you
All right.
so much for joining us tonight, Mr. Justin. I was just telling them how I enjoy your Instagram page, and you post a lot of interesting things. It's something that caught my eye. And we're just going over the basics of BDSM. I did some basic research and some definitions or what have you. We're just still there going over that.
Mhm.
You had posted a video one time that was interesting. You were talking about, it was referencing women and kind of like, the quote unquote body count or whole culture, and how women are, they like sex. They just like
Sure.
sex, right?
Mhm.
But, we get bashed for it. So, welcome. I would love for you to tell the audience what exactly you do, and if you're a master, and where people can find you, and what you provide, what services you provide.
Sure. Yeah. Well, yeah. Thanks for having me. It was really good to hear from you and inviting me on your show. So I appreciate that. And yeah, my Instagram is Mr. Justin _X, and I started out primarily as a dating coach, and I've been doing that for a few years. And I just basically I got tired of dealing with the same old patterns. Basically, just guys who are stuck with nice guy syndrome. If anyone's ever read Dr. Glover's book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, it's a fantastic read. I recommend the vast majority of average men to read this book, and you'll find it very enlightening. But I was just tired of all the same patterns, and guys just being scared to talk to women, and they just had no game, they had no mouthpiece, they had no sex game, they were just awful. And I was like, okay, I need some meat on the bone here. So I shifted out of that and started dealing with relationships. And during my time of dealing more with relationships, I said, you know what? This isn't really my authenticity. And I decided to, I guess, come out of the closet, so to speak,
Mhm.
and just let my D colors fly and be who I am through that, and just say, you know what? Who cares if parents of friends that I've had for 20 years come forward and be like, what is this? And so it didn't even matter at that point. And so now I primarily deal with men who are interested in cultivating more of their own dominance, and how to bring about a greater sense of polarity in their dynamics and in their relationships. I worked with vanilla couples who kind of want to bring it about into their relationships, as well as couples who've they've had a DS situation, but it's not fully established, it's not fully grounded, doesn't have a good structure. And
Mhm.
I found that in my dealings that a lot of it has to do with, this isn't like hetero DS situations, where the guy is not grounded in who he is in himself. So a funny realization is I thought that I was going to have things easier, but then I realized that I'm dealing with the same stuff all over again. And it really just comes down to, at least, I mean, I only deal with heterosexual men, but so I can't speak on anything else. But it seems that it's all the same stuff, and it just comes down to who that man is, how he relates to himself, how he communicates with himself, how he's dealt with his fears, his discomforts, his upbringing, and how he is grounded, how he grounds himself, and what is that grounding made of. And that makes all the difference in the world when moving in any kind of relationship, whether it's a vanilla relationship or a DS relationship. And it just comes down to what kind of a man you are, what you're made of, and what is your square, and that determines everything moving forward. Because what we see in the BDSM world is an I do. Right. And too many times they get focused on the I do. They say, oh, I want to be a better dom. Tell me what to do. And it's like, brother, it's an I am. You have to figure out that it's an I am position, because seriously, you could be a dominant and be a quadriplegic. I started coaching a guy who's in a wheelchair. He's paralyzed from the waist down. He has 4 submissives.
Oh.
Yep.
Well, that says a lot for the guys running around on 2 legs that work and complain about not being able to get women to submit.
Yeah. But that, like, again, like getting to submit, that sounds like an action word, right? Yeah. Dominance is, in my view, an invitation. That's to me, that's how I see it. It's sort of like my mentor, the way he describes it sounds like you're a vampire. But, it's like the vampire, I don't want to say that because there's negative connotations, but like a vampire cannot enter a home without being invited. That's the rule, right? By mythology. It's the same sort of way. It's like, you need to invite me. Like, so I'm giving the invitation, and you like either accept it or not. But it's like, be forewarned. Like, I've got you. When you invite me in, it's done. It's over for you. And but it's not with malice. It's just, I got your back. I'm going to take care of you. I understand how your mind's going to work. I'm going to figure you out. But it's a done deal if you invite me in.
Okay. Now, do you mind if like the panel or people in the chat ask you questions?
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. Yes.
Okay, awesome.
I would love to have a free form conversation here, just other people's experiences, backgrounds, like, what you guys are about.
Okay, cool. So I do want to ask you, you said you wanted to be more authentic to your teachings. So are you a quote unquote master yourself?
No, I don't see myself as a master. I am a dominant. So I guess if I never really thought about labels much at all, but I guess being part of groups and stuff, and everyone's like so like label hungry, I guess I consider myself a sadistic daddy dom.
Sadistic daddy dom. That's a mouthful. What exactly does that mean? A sadistic daddy dom.
So a daddy dom is one who imagine a strict father. Okay. So that would be like a light sadistic daddy, right? But imagine that strict father with a little bit more sadism. Okay. Where there's an enjoyment that comes through, inflicting discomfort, be it psychological, be it emotional, or be it physical.
Oh, that's deep. So when you say psychological, because that's scary in a way, because you're messing with someone's mind. Exactly. So what kind of psychological?
It like I'm a big fan of double binds. I really like double binds. So like, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Or putting one in a in a compromising situation mentally, right? And so like an example would be say, I was actually talking with my girlfriend and my sub about this, and she gave me this fantasy, and this is a great example. And the fantasy is like, before work, there's some messing around, arousal, getting turned on and so on. And then gets to the point where she's begging to be fucked, right? Just like has to have it, must have this. And it's like, no, you're getting fucked in the ass, or you're going to work horny.
Oh.
And so it's like, Well, I wasn't expecting getting fucked in the ass, but I really want to get fucked. So, or I'm gonna go to work frustrated, horny, and having like the female version of blue balls.
Mhm.
Like that's I mean, that's a sexual version of
Okay.
that sort of situation. But there's so many things, and it. I mean, it can turn into things like blackmail, but that's not for me. But I'm just knowing that it can go that direction. But again, it's it won't work with I guess Heron, you're mentioning elbows,
Right, right.
And it's the same sort of thing. Like the person who's going to be into that sort of thing, who has sort of a little bit of kink around feeling compromised and saying, shit, I don't know what to do. Like, and when it's psychological, it's like, damn, he owns me and he hasn't done shit. Right? He hasn't laid a finger on me, and I'm fucked if I do this. I'm fucked if I do that. What do I do? He's got me. Checkmate. Right? And there's I guess some pleasure in that feeling of being compromised and being made small, being dropped to your knees without really having done anything. Right? And there's but there's people who love that feeling. Right? Just as like there's some people who love an elbow in their side. I don't know, but it's the same.
It
It's the same
sounds
sort of stuff.
it sounds like it's easy, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, because I know. Well, I'll just ask it this way.
Mhm.
It sounds like it's easy to maintain loyalty with a couple that's like dom and sub because they're so intertwined into doing what the other person says, and the other person is so intertwined into telling the other person. It just seems like an interesting relationship that could easily be loyal. You know what I mean?
I really don't know,
Mhm.
because I talk to a lot of people all the time
Mhm.
who are in the lifestyle, in group chats, sometimes personally, and you hear about disloyalty all the time, right?
Oh wow. Okay.
I don't know if you guys are like in like Facebook groups or anything like that, where people
Mhm.
come in and they say, "Oh, I met this great dom. We got to know each other for 2 weeks, and then he vanished." Right?
Oh.
Or I've been seeing this sub, and I would like to make her my girlfriend, and then all of a sudden she ghosted me. And or she wants to get another dom, or I find out that she has two other doms, and
Oh.
then right, and so loyalty, no, I don't think I think that's the problem, where a lot of people come into this lifestyle thinking that it will fix problems, when
Okay.
it doesn't. It can actually make things a lot more complicated.
Hmm.
Hmm.
E Black TV in the chat asked, "What do you think about having a contract? I believe it is necessary because I feel it's considered kink rather than BDSM."
If you feel that it's necessary, then you feel it's necessary, right? I do like the idea of contracts, but understand it's not really a contract; it's an agreement, right? We call them contracts, but not contracts. They're not legally binding. They don't really hold any weight in any reality whatsoever, except the ones that you believe them to be. So it's more an agreement, and I kind of like I kind of like the idea, because in vanilla relationships, there's no real agreements put out there, and that's the great thing that I love about this lifestyle, is that you can get to a point where so many things are made to be very crystal clear,
Hmm.
and I think that helps out tremendously, right?
Hmm.
And you can, and the great thing about agreements is that you can revise them as you move along. You can make amendments to the agreements as you grow, as you learn yourself more. You might discover something about yourself that you need to discuss, and it might make a change in that agreement. But communication is always highly touted in the lifestyle, and I feel that there's a lot of challenging of fears, a lot of challenging of discomforts,
Hmm.
getting out of comfort zones, especially psychologically and mentally, emotionally, and obviously physically. But it's all. I mean, maybe I have an idealistic vision of it, but it's all in the aims of like self growth,
Hmm.
which I think vanilla relationships just fail miserably at.
Ooh, so I'm going to ask one more question before I pass the mic to someone else who may have a question. I don't want to hog up. I don't want to hog Justin up,
Sure.
but I do have a question for those that don't, because I know some switch between dom and sub, right? But the ones that don't switch between, the ones that are just strictly dom and strictly sub, what personality would you say is good for a dom, and what personality is good for a sub before they even venture into it? Like, I would think I would have a good personality for a dom, right?
You
So,
probably
but it's just
you'd probably be switchy. I get switchy vibes from you.
okay. You're
And
right. Okay.
so I think one of the key components for a good dominant is self-belief and being decisive. Right.
Check.
So yeah, it's in self-belief. So you can't be decisive if you have self-doubt. And you cannot have any self-doubt. You have to completely trust yourself, which means you have to imbue a lot of information, right? It helps to read a lot, study a lot, question yourself, question your beliefs, question your perceptions. It's great to have a mentor to bounce things off of that has way more experience than you. And then that can solidify the self-belief, the self-concept, so that you can really trust in your judgment, trust in your decisions, and you're not second guessing stuff, because you don't want to be second guessing something as you're rigging somebody up and going, gee, did I do this right? And it's like, if you're asking that while they're strung up to the ceiling, you've waited way too long to ask that question.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? So that sort of mentality of like trusting the self will lead to being decisive. For a submissive, I'm not a submissive, so I can't really answer that. I can only say it from my own perspective, but I think it would be bias.
Okay, so before we move on, what about me gave you switchy vibes? Because we are learning tonight.
It's just my intuition.
Oh. All right, so I will pass the mic. Haran, if you wanted to add something to what Mr. Justin said, or if anyone else has a question on the panel before we move forward.
I got a question, and this sounds irrelevant, I guess, but I'm curious. What is your educational background?
My educational background?
Yeah. Do you have a degree or?
Yeah, I've got a bachelor in the arts.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Just because the way you're talking about, I think it takes a lot of intelligence to be able to do what you do, and not necessarily the degree. It necessarily means if you don't have a degree, you're not intelligent. But I just wonder, like, that space in arts makes a lot of sense too, because yeah, I mean, so that's all. I was just curious.
Well, I would say that to what you're pointing at is good in the sense that to be a good dominant, you have to maintain a sense of studentship forever and constantly humble yourself and constantly be seeking knowledge, constantly be seeking growth, and always being able to, empty your cup halfway so that you can fill it with more information.
And also being able to process things really quickly. That's kind of something I was thinking about too. Yeah. Like being able to process body languages and things like that. And
Yep. Absolutely.
I have a question.
Yeah, shoot.
Okay. Hey, Justin.
Hi there, George.
George here. Hey, thanks for coming on. The question I got for you is, I'm a noob into BDSM, and I've taken like a few tests, which I kind of question the validity of them. But right now, they say that I'm a switch, and that I'm a masochist, and I can confirm that I am. And I'm a bit of a brat. And the question I've got about switch is that, in terms of, do you think, like for me, right now in the current relationship I'm in, I'm the sub, and I have a female dom, and so if I wanted to go to be a dom, how do you take guys that, or how would you do? What's your personal view? Like, you say you want to be a dom, but as you know, not everybody's cut out to be one.
Nope.
And so how do you say start off as a sub and then work your way over, or how does that actually work?
Well, some believe that one should experience being a sub so that they have a greater understanding of what the other side of the cane is going through. I can see the validity in that, but considering that it's all a very subjective experience where I could whack somebody with a cane and it takes them to another universe, it could bring them to tears, it could put a big smile on their face, it could make them start giggling, it could put them into convulsions, who knows, amongst a myriad of psychological things, right? So I don't really know if that's the right way to go, but I think that it would be helpful to start a question of asking why. I think whys are probably the most powerful questions we can ask ourselves. And so if you're like, I want to be a dom, my first question, and you came to me with that question, I would say, why? What is your reasoning for coming to this? Are you unhappy with your existence? Do you feel like you should? Right? Because you're getting pressure of like, oh, you're a man. And so you have to be like, there's all kinds of things that get pushed on us that we think are decisions that we should make, but they're not really ours. And so I would just approach it with a series of questions to get at the reason why you're even having this thought in the first place, if you're completely content with how you are right now.
Yeah. And, my thing is that what I've learned is this stuff is like 90% mental and, I don't know, 10%, obviously 10% physical, but, I came to this partly out of curiosity and I had thought about it for a long time. And like everybody who probably gets into this, they had their inhibitions, but I'm kind of like, all my life I've been like on a path of self-discovery. And so I kind of looked at this as like a way to push myself to really know and understand how I really am. And
that's what it's all about.
So, yeah. And I was kind of thinking like, there's this vibe I get with me that I could be a dom, but then I think about it and it's like, well, yeah. I question and I'm like, well, is it more like a continuum? Like, in other words, I'm a switch, which, people think that's like 50%, 50 this, but is it, is really the whole thing. Everybody's a dom and a sub, but, you can be mostly a sub, but in some cases you can be a dom or from your perspective, it's either one or the other.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm just traditional minded. Maybe I'm old school. Maybe I'm closed minded. But I firmly believe that it really comes down to a core essence, right? And you could do all the things, right? I could like write you a whole tryst of things to do that if someone were to observe you, right? Heron were to kind of watch a video of you having, going through a session or whatever like that, and be like, damn, okay, that looks like a dumb, but inside, right, you're completely different. You're just copying the do's, right? It's not it's not an expression of I am, right?
I see.
So dominance to me is an expression of your core I am, right? It's not the identity. The identity is actually simpler and deeper than that. And then the dominance or submission or switchiness or whatever else comes out of that, that is just an extension. It's an expression of that core self, which actually is labelless. It's nameless. It's right. And then we just, in order to talk about it, we have to put something on there, right? So then as it comes out away from that, then we say, oh, that's an identifier. We can call that dominance. We can call that submission or whatever. So it's not about like what you could do. You could be just interested in the actions, which is completely fine. Okay. Maybe you're like, you know what? I want to do some fucking flogging now. Right. Because
what's flogging? Like, what is flogging?
When you're using like a whipping sort of implement, or it can be stiff, it can be flexible. I like switches. I really like switches. Yeah, those are fun. But anyways, so let's say like you look at that and you're like, oh, that looks like fun. I want to try that. You can still top and be a submissive, right? So you can have some of the fun of the do's and not have it change who you are and your identity and still enjoy some of these things. And it doesn't mean you've switched an identity, right? It just means you're doing something that, your dominant would do. And, it's like, if they're okay bottoming, then have fun.
I did want to ask George the question, like, why do you want to be a dom? Could you answer that?
Yeah, well, part of it is that it's part of it's this male ego thing. I'm the man. I'm supposed to be the dominant,
See, I
right?
told you.
Yeah,
Mm.
and so, but I questioned that, and I said, no, I'm going to be a sub, and it happened to be that the person I'm going to is a dominant, female dominant, and I wanted to be, and I kind of like that, to be honest with you. That's why I'm, Justin, I'm kind of thinking I might really be, over here in the sub camp, but I just wanted to explore that other avenue. But the one thing that Jen, that I was going to say that I got from my dom,
Hmm.
she says that for her, this is something I had to get in my head, because men are really about the sex, but for women, it's all about the mind fuck.
Hmm.
As a
Well,
as the
speak for yourself.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right. They say that's from her point of view, right? That she said that from her point of view, it's about the mind fuck. That the idea of she can getting into that. They talk about getting into that headspace, and then acting out what they're doing, acting out what she does and stuff. But yeah, there's I mean, that's just something that I'm throwing out there. I'm not saying, like
Well,
he just mentioned, there's other people have a different point of view on that, but
just
yeah.
really quick, what is it that draws you to that
Oh.
To which one?
dominance?
Dominance?
Mhm.
It's just that it's more like the curiosity. Is it really there? Is that element of me? Because if I think of myself as a dominant, I think of myself in this role as almost like, I don't want to say like godlike, but it's like, I have this power to affect, bring her pleasure, bring her pain, and then at the very end. But I'm always, and Heron was talking about this earlier, when like aftercare and stuff, and there's the part where you come in after you've done all of that, you bring her back, and very lovingly, in a very tight bond gets formed.
Mhm.
So
Well,
that's
all
kind of
of
like
those
that's
things that
where
you
my mind is.
described, all of those
Mhm.
things that you described can be done without being dominant.
Okay.
All right. Because what you described is something outside of yourself. Right. And I'll ask a question to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. I don't think about those things that you just mentioned. They never cross my mind. And I'll ask you this really question. Do you think a tiger thinks it about being a tiger?
No,
No.
No. It just is.
I got you.
And
Okay.
that's the difference. Right. You don't think of, like, I mean, I'm just guessing, but like, you don't think about being submissive. You just are submissive. You don't like go into detail, like, what does this mean to me? Like, unless you're like forcefully, like, I'm going to investigate myself, but like on a regular basis, you're not thinking like, oh, like I do this and I want to do that, and I hope this gets done to me, and this makes me feel this way.
No, it
Right.
was more.
The way you were describing dominance, like you're like, I want to do this because this, that, and that. Right.
Well,
And the tiger doesn't think about itself at all. It just is a tiger. It tigers.
yeah, it's the way I kind of thought about it, in that when part of this to get me to be the submissive in this, is I was really reticent about the, based on my background, like, basically I'll say this to you guys, it's the trifecta of abuse, and you guys can color in between the lines on that, what that means. But so I was looking at that, and I was like, hey, I'm not going to let you do this to me, this to me, this to me, this to me. No fucking way. I'm not going to be a piece of furniture. I'm not going to be the ashtray, that kind of thing. I was like very, coming from a very defensive mindset, like in closed in this. And then and you mentioned it earlier in your talk, you were talking about you help men be, in that terms, and that was that resonated with me on that. And so that's the other thing. So
Sure. Cool. All
So
right.
I'm learning about myself as I listen. So I'm definitely a tiger all the time, right? I think because I'm like, I feel I am dominant, right? Like every time I get booked for a role, they're like, we want you to be the girl that's killing with the gun. And I'm like, but I didn't say I wanted to be that. People are like, no, you're the girl killing with the gun. But I think submission is fun. It's fun to visit, but I'm dominant for sure.
Mhm.
Like that's my natural state. That's where I'm comfortable. That's what I feel like I do well. I'm very decisive. I know what I want, but then I'm like, the bratty submissive thing is cute. It's fun to visit, but I wouldn't want to live there. I like
Right.
it over here.
It can, and then you're describing a lot of women, especially today.
Yes, you are.
where out in the world, it's boots on the ground, hat pulled down tight, and it's like, let's get to business, right? But then it's perhaps having a partner or having a dominant that you go to for service, right? Like you're like paying for, like going to a massage therapist, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, we're spending this time together so that I can take off my boots, take off my hat, and not be in control.
Yes.
And just let go so I can take a fucking breath, right? That's and so many women do this, right? Because of just how things are. And frankly, a lot of guys do too, right?
Mhm.
A lot of guys, they don't want to be in control. They've been at a job site managing a team of 20 dudes for 16 hours. They want to come home and not make any decisions whatsoever. They want to be told what to do, right? And that's completely normal.
Mhm. What do you think about the ideas that are running rampant on social media, YouTube, Instagram, where these coaches are popping up and telling men that women shouldn't have high body counts and women are supposed to be submissive, and it's echoing. A lot of people are parroting these ideas, and women have to be this way. What do you think about their version of what they think a woman is, right? Because I hear a lot of, we have to teach these guys the nature of the woman. But it always sounds off to me when I hear them talk about it. I'm like, that's not the nature of me at all. What the fuck are they talking about? So what do you think about their version of the nature of woman and how women should submit and not have a high body count, what have you?
Well, the funny part is when I hear the word nature paired up with the behavior of women, right? They're like female nature. You hear that all the time, right?
Yep.
What do you look at nature? What look at nature? Okay. Do trees grow in a straight line? No, they're
No.
fucking crazy all over the place. Oceans come in random patterns. Sometimes it'll be gentle, sometimes it'll crash. One day it'll rain. Go to Florida, it's raining at 3 o'clock, and then at 3:01 it's bright and sunny, right? It's just all over the place, and depending on how you zoom in, if you zoom in far into nature, you see the patterns, right? Everything's moving at this really nice, very well organized system, or if you zoom way, 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 way out, you're like looking at the planet, you're like, oh yeah, everything's fine. Everything's moving the way it's supposed to be. But there's that middle ground where it looks chaotic, right? So it depends on where you're looking at it. And what these guys look at it from, and they don't realize, is they're looking at it from the Madonna whore complex, and they don't realize it. So I really,
what's the Madonna whore complex for anybody watching? And they're like,
the Madonna whore complex, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it was something that either Freud or Jung came up with. And it was, it's a way of viewing women as either being a Madonna, being chaste, being the good girl, being, not out, after hours or whatever, not sleeping with men. And then there's the whore, which I don't have to describe.
right. So there's no in between?
Being sexually promiscuous. So no, it's not about being in between. It's both and neither at the same time, right? So men have to get out of looking at women with this Madonna whore complex that either she's a hoe or she's wifey, right? And you hear like, oh, you can't turn a hoe into a housewife, you can't turn a housewife into a hoe. There's all these problems with that sort of, because that bifurcated thinking comes from the Madonna whore complex. And as long as you're in this very two-lane bifurcated way of viewing people, especially viewing women, you'll never get past actually understanding who they are and functioning in ways that you can't even imagine, right? Because when you go past those layers, those perceptions, those beliefs, and you start touching into a woman's core through your core, it becomes this whole other creature, this completely different being, where you're taking her to places that she didn't even know was part of her, sexually, mentally, emotionally, even rationally sometimes. And it's because by viewing women in this way, treating them in ways based on those perceptions, you then limit how they interact with you, right? Because if you hear it all the time, it's like, oh, well, this guy thinks I'm a whore, so I'm going to either behave according to his beliefs or against his beliefs. Oh, he thinks I'm a good girl, so I'm either going to behave according to his perceptions or against his perceptions, right? And deal with the consequences of either. And when you get out of that bifurcated thinking and you just look at, and learn the wildness of women's nature, there's so much you can do. And then once you learn to be, a grounded man who knows himself and knows how to be that decisive person, trusts in his own judgment, is able to make good decisions. And I'm not talking about in the world, but I'm talking internally and dealing with her core. You then become a master gardener. And I wrote a post about that, becoming a master gardener. She invites you in and you start your gardening and you start doing your thing. And it's like you start making adjustments. And at first she's watching you. She's like, I'm not sure what he's doing. Let me just keep watch, right? And then after a while, the trust starts like, okay, I can see he knows what he's doing. And the trust and the brattiness actually falls away. There's less monitoring. She's not standing there like looking at his every move, like, is he cutting that thing straight? And then there's less trust, more trust, less managing, less oversight. And then the gardener keeps going through and just starts landscaping everything. And before you know it, it's this beautiful landscaped garden. But you have to be that master gardener. You have to trust in yourself. You have to believe.
I love that analogy because I don't think men realize how much women watch them. Because I know I'm that type of woman. I'm watching to see if I can trust you, not even sexually, but just in general, or I have to put the pants back on. And once I have to put the pants back on,
it's done.
It's done.
Yep.
Thank you for saying that, because a lot of men do not understand that. I mean, it's like done. I do want to say really quickly, please hit that like and subscribe. Make sure you follow the people on my panel. Also, panel, when you're not talking, please mute your mics, because in my headphones, I'm hearing all kinds of things going on in somebody's home. I can't tell who it is, but it sounds like there's furniture moving or I don't know what.
Yeah.
Can I add to this?
Yes, please. What's up, Dame?
What's up, y'all?
Hello.
How y'all doing?
Awesome. I wanted to add to this because I am happily married of 4 years, stay-at-home wife. Husband is the hardworking, bread-winning husband. We have our roles. I love it here. I love being submissive. I don't want to go anywhere else. But I just had a baby a few days ago. So I thought your talk about the paraplegic was very interesting, because that's how I feel right now. Everything from there to there is done for a while.
That's funny. Yeah, no, that's totally
so I
normal.
related to it. I was like, wow, that's interesting. If all that is shut down, how are you still getting
as well as your
you need?
hormones? Yeah, as well as your hormones are out of whack, and which affects your brain states and all that good stuff. Yeah. So let me ask you something really quick.
What can be done?
Well, no, actually, I just wanted to ask you something really quick. Like you said, like, oh, I'm submissive. Like you said, like, I'm submissive. What does that feel like to you?
Comfortable, safe.
Good. Right? You hear that? Like, for ladies who are saying this, like, because there is a turning point, I think, for some who are not used to it, and it feels scary, right? Because it does take a lot of trust in yourself, yes, to be able to get to that place of being comfortable, feeling safe, whilst being submissive. I think it's a tremendously challenging thing for a lot of people. So I wanted to just get your feeling on that, of what it feels like to be in a submissive state instead of having a submissive I do, right? Which also has its levels of trust and need for comfort and safety, but it's a different sort of level when I think it's your state of being on a day-to-day level. So I appreciate that.
What does the paraplegic do? Because, like you said, if all of that is shut down, they get pleasure somehow. It's just mental.
Well, it's yeah. Yeah, because I've got this idea that it's, I mean, at least from a dominant, right? And I guess the opposite could be for a submissive, but for the dominant, I prioritize control over pleasure. Control is my pleasure. So while if you're having pleasure on your front burners, you can't monitor things, you can't observe things, you can't control things, you can't guide things, because your state of mind is focused on having those sexual pleasures or sensual pleasures, and it's harder to focus, right? So it has to be able to, kind of like mature it back and put it on the back burner so you can focus. So it's complete mental game. It's a whole mental state of being that allows you to do this. And I would say it's probably the same thing for a submissive, that the joy comes from being in that state, the feeling that you get. That's why I asked you, how does it feel? Right. So if one of the greatest feelings is the feeling of freedom, the feeling of safety, the feeling of comfort, the feeling that you can let go and someone's got you, mentally, physically, emotionally, I don't know. I can't really compare that with just getting off. Right. It just, to me, it pales in comparison. So for that paraplegic, their pleasure is living in that state of being, because a lot of us, right, a lot of people out there, they don't live in that sort of alignment, right, where their thoughts, words, and actions are in alignment. They're like, yeah, I am who I am, right? Versus most people, they have one behavior and they think a different way and they speak a different way, so they're out of congruence completely. And they go through their whole lives like this, right? Being completely uncomfortable with who they are. So if you're getting to a state where you're feeling good about, that's why I asked you that, right? Because like, my girl, I know that serving me brings her pleasure, and it's not sexual. Like, I'm talking about non-sexual servitude. And it's not from a slave perspective. It's very simple stuff. And I know she gets pleasure from that. It brings her joy. So, and it has nothing to do with, orgasms or anything of that nature, but you're talking directly orgasms. I'd say just let your body go back to what, it just went through a major process, and it takes time to go back to baseline. Your hormones take a long time to shift. They're very, very slow acting chemicals. So don't pressure yourself, take it easy. Do other things that are enjoyable, that feel good. Massage, sensual music. There's so much like sensory play that you can get into. Testing out different materials. You can do sensory deprivation. So if you say, get some noise canceling headphones, like the kind that you get like for construction, right? Construction, like the jackhammer guys, get those, blindfold, and then have your partner do sensory play. Right, with putting like different materials on your body, and because once you cut out certain senses, the other ones like kind of heighten up a little bit. So your sense of touch, your sense of taste, and your sense of smell will then become, the awarenesses will be drawn to those. So that's absolutely something you can do, and I'm sure it'd be a lot of fun.
Mr. Justin, can you repeat your Instagram? Can you repeat your Instagram? There are people asking for it.
Oh, yeah, sure. It's Mr. Justin _X, because somebody has Mr. Justin and they won't give it to me.
I went through that too. I'm like, can I have the Jen Garcia? I want to welcome Dame. I want to welcome Dame to the panel. What say you, sir?
Thank you for the gift. I'm getting everything in the mail, so I just want to say thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Yeah. This is definitely an interesting topic because, I'm trying to look back on the experiences that I had and stuff like that. Where any aspects of this can I recognize any aspects of this in some of my encounters and what have you? And it kind of got me thinking about this one girl I was seeing, and and like knowing it was gonna be this, I did a little bit of research and stuff like that, and I think she may have had may have been wanting to do the DDLG, the Dom Daddy little girl, because she always wanted affirmation as a good little girl. She always wanted to tell me I'm a good little girl, or everything was little. It was like I'm a little slut or something like that. It was never like a bad bitch or something like that. So it was like it was definitely a situation where everything was about me, just like affirming that everything she's doing as a little girl and what have you. And this was a grown woman. This was
Wow.
not a little girl. So
Wow.
so I think, I was wondering, is that maybe she something that she was interested in, that she was trying to bring out in me and see if I'd be down for it. She was kind of testing my waters and seeing if it's something I'd be down for. And also something that Justin was saying about like people who are like making decisions and in charge all the time, and then when they get home, they don't want to make any decisions. They kind of want to submit because they're like dominant throughout the day or what have you. I think maybe that goes back to when I was, at those parties, and you see these really buff guys wanted to see me with their wives or what have you. And it was just like, dude, you're this huge guy who intimidated half the people in the room, but you want to see me like with your wife. What's really going on there? Is that kind of like you trying to, is that like a submission thing, or it's kind of like is it just a straight cuck thing? I don't know.
It could actually be another form of dominance, right?
Mhm.
Because if
That's what
he's
I
a
thought.
dominant, he's actually using you and her.
Maybe.
You're the tool. You see
You're
what
a
I'm
whip.
saying? Right? You're a whip with a heartbeat.
Probably.
But you don't know that. You don't know what's actually the reality that he's living in. So yes, he could be totally getting off on cuck culture, which is, hey, if that's your bag, that's your bag. But he could also be the dominant sitting back and he's like, I own you and you.
Oh,
Right.
that's sexy.
Wow.
That's
But
sexy.
right, but you don't know, right? You have no idea.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean,
Because
unless you
Dame,
go and ask him.
in those
Dame, you
particular
got owned,
situations,
Dame.
in those particular situations, if you do something that the wife or the cuckold hasn't agreed to, and you just go rogue, they might kick you the fuck out the house.
Well, it
You
was in
know,
the house. This was in public.
well,
This
whichever
yeah.
one, they cease the scene. So there is a point to what Justin was saying. A couple of other things I actually do want to say. I was just sitting back and just listening to Justin, and definitely do agree with the number of things he said. He clearly does. I will say is knowledgeable, or as you would say, the real deal, because he's not on here with just this cliche bravado. That's one of the
Mhm,
things.
mhm.
There's a lot of people in the culture who I've come across, and they just have this over the top bravado that's just not necessary. And to his point, also, it's one of the things that I always say: having a strong sense of self is important.
Mhm.
That is the first thing that you must do, just in life, period. Just outside of this topic, when you have a strong sense of self, you're able to guide others and guide yourself. Why am I a dom? Because I'm naturally like this. Ever since I was younger, I've sat down and I've asked myself these questions. Okay, why am I drawn to this role in this position? Because ever since I was younger, I hated chaos. I wanted to control the madness. I wanted to have complete and total autonomy of whatever is going on. I have a thirst for power. You know what I mean? I have a sadistic streak. I do like inflicting pain. You know what I mean? So I do have to be very cognizant of these things, though, where it's just like I can't allow these thirsts to control me and take me over. I can use these things, but I also can be very, caring and so on, because I also do have a savior complex. I had a time in my life where I was Captain Saber hoeing out this motherfucker like a motherfucker. You know what I mean? Because I have a general thing in me that wants to care for women, wants to, what I mean, make sure a woman is safe. I naturally know how to create a safe space for a woman. Now, again, yeah, there's the other aspect of a lot of guys just want to come into this world because there's the aspect of ego. You know, it's an opportunity to feed their ego. And this really shouldn't be ego driven. You know what I mean? Because if you're driven by your ego in this lifestyle, you're going to get eaten up by this lifestyle real quick. And, you know, the sub is going to eventually know, and then she's going to break away from you because she's going to realize that, hey, you're just really into what you want. And you're not really trying to create this safe space for me so I can reciprocate for you.
I'm curious about something. Do you find, either one of you, Ron or Mr. Justin, do you find that there's a lot of guys that try to enter this space to try to make up for their lack of control or position in society? So they get in and they're like, oh, you know, I'm a janitor and I'm cleaning out toilets, picking up trash, but when I go home, I want to be this dominant presence to make myself feel better about the fact that I got to go clean shit up in the next, the next tomorrow or what have you.
I've seen it. I've seen it. I'm not saying like every guy, but yes, I've encountered that.
I'd have to agree. And I mentioned it before you got here, Dame.
Okay.
That a number of people, more than what needs to be, but a number of people come into this lifestyle thinking that it will solve their problems, and it just won't. It won't make you the man that you wish you were. Right? Mm-hmm. That it goes deeper and more intrinsic than BDSM, right? So if someone's feeling that way, they've got a problem with the communication what they have with themselves far sooner than getting into any kind of lifestyle details. But yeah, I've seen that. I've absolutely seen that before.
No Saint, are you about to ask something?
I was going to say Nacho Libre. It's Nacho Libre.
You got the Nacho Libre basketball.
That's his disguise, Dame. That's his disguise.
This is.
Is it the alter ego?
This is, I have a job.
El Diablo.
I have a job where I live with people for 48 hours at a time, and if they saw me saying some of the stuff I'm going to say on here tonight,
there you go.
Oh, they're gonna be like that, but they just gonna be, that's just no Saint in the mask,
well, I gotta lubricate too a little bit with the
wine. Who is that mysterious guy?
But
you're not Superman.
I mean, I do.
I'm just messing.
No, you're cool.
I'm just messing.
It's funny. Before we came in, I knew what the subject was about. I was like, if I had to pick, I was like, okay, Jen, she's dominant. DeMarco, dominant. Haran, dominant for sure. I already knew George was coming up here. I'm trying to think who else.
Did you think George submissive?
Well, he already said. He said last night. Remember? He said he had a femdom, which I really appreciate. Him saying things like that made me more comfortable. Like I said, maybe I'll get some stuff out here tonight. Because normally on these Freaky Friday nights, I don't really like airing out things as much as I should. It's not that I don't want to be honest, but I'm like, God dang, man, this is kind of like, you know what I mean? And then
it's
Dame,
a safe space. It's a safe space.
I was gonna make a joke and say Dame. I figured he was a switch, but
he's a switch.
I'm a switch, yeah.
But no, it's really fascinating. Some of the stuff that Mr. Justin's saying. I mean, and I agree with a lot of the stuff he is. I mean, I agree with most of the stuff he's saying. And when Brianne was asking like the quadriplegic question, about what is it? And it's totally things in this game are way more mental than they are physical, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Let me swallow here.
Come on, no Saint, we got you.
No. What's really, and I'd like to hear Mr. Justin if he runs into people like this. So for me, I've been married for like 20 years. I, from the youngest age I can remember, I'm talking about not the youngest age I can remember, but junior high. There was something I remember reading. We had to read a book, and it was the Canterbury Tales. And there was and I'll share this later, but there was something in that book that when I read it, it turned me on. And this you're talking about, the Canterbury Tales. That's like 1500. I mean, I mean, I think it maybe more older than that, 1200. They're talking old English, right?
Mm-hmm. What is it about? What is the book about?
Well, it's a bunch of different stories in it. I'll share, like I said, I'll share a little bit later. But what I wanted to say is that, so yeah, I am I am a submissive, but I don't really live the lifestyle. And one of the things I don't have to live the lifestyle, but that's what kind of gets me. That's what turns me on. And the problem I've had, not really a problem, but one of the things that I was sort of sharing this with Janet in so many ways a while back when we were talking about stuff like this, is that I can't do certain. The submissive part, I'm okay. I think Erica's kind of dominant, but like she's more of a switch, right? But I can't do, like, she wanted me to do certain things to her that I just couldn't do because she was the mother of my kids, right? Because she wanted me to do some more dominant stuff. I like what George said. He's taken it to the next step. He's actually got, like, I can't live that lifestyle. Not as long as I have kids, and because there's certain people out there that are looking for like full-time submissives. I can't dedicate that kind of time to it. You know what I mean?
Oh, hey, no, Saint, just to let you know, I'm not in a 24/7 relationship. I know right now, I could never do that.
Yeah, and the other part is, I love my, I have gone to a dominatrix before, and it was cool, but as much as I like that, I really like my money too.
And how much money are we talking about? Just since we're learning tonight, what's the average?
Like, it was like
Jen's looking for a side hustle.
No, look, Jen, seriously, you can do it. And this is what I'm not this person. But there's something called FinDom, which is financial domination. Mm-hmm. You can make a killing. Mm-hmm. And all you got to do is get on there and say, I want you to send me, and there's rich dudes willing to do it. I need $500. I need you to send me $1,000 right now. You need to do that, because but what I'm getting at is it costs it costs me. Oh, you got to get out of here. It's my dog.
And for me, it was $500 for 2 hours.
Yeah, right. I'm looking.
How much?
It was
$500 for 2 hours.
500 for 2 hours?
Yes. Yeah. It was. Yes. That's. Hold on one second. Let me close this door. Hold on. I gotta take this dumb mask off.
This dog's like, who's this crazy Libre? Luchadora.
The dog is bugging out. The dog is like, what's going on?
Yeah, Jen, she has a whole stable. She has regulars, people that have been with her like over 10 years. And so, yeah. So
I did want to ask Mr. Justin a question, because on another Freaky Friday, that seems to come up where men, they don't want to do, I mean, you're married, right? You're married to this woman for a forever is the goal. And the men, I think what leads to infidelity is I keep hearing the men say, I don't want to do that with the mother of my children. That is the mother of my children, or that's my wife. Why don't they just do it with their wife?
It's again the Madonna whore complex.
That's what I said, the Madonna whore. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and that's what I was agreeing with him when he was saying that. Yeah, it was like, he's spot on though. It's like $500 for like a couple of hours. Mm-hmm. And the person that I chose, and I still have her on Instagram. But when you're raising 3 kids, it's not really to separate $500. It's not.
Put her on layaway.
But it was really interesting because I listened to her. She goes between.
You got sunbit.
she goes between Seattle and New Orleans, and I listened to a podcast she was on, or a radio station, and what was important to me is she likes doing it. So it wasn't about the money is nice, but she actually, from a young person, enjoyed being that person that was making guys do what she wanted guys to do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I looked her up. And it was, I'll talk more about the experience and everything like that. But yeah, it was so So anyway, that's what I was gonna ask. So you were talking to him about what I was saying, how there's this block when it comes to, especially listen, I'll say it straight up. I'll say it.
Please do. We're learning here.
She wanted me to use my fist and go in. Like, she likes pain too, right? And I couldn't do it.
You mean put your fisting like in her vagina?
Yeah, like really. Yes, like really. Where's the camera? Like
throw the whole forearm in there. Oh man, yeah, I've been there.
And
Are you talking about your wife?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Ew, she's exciting.
Yeah.
No, Saint, you're married to a great woman. You know how many men would want to be with a woman that freaky?
No,
get in there. Saint, get in there.
See that now you throw the elbow in there. Now this is the elbow time.
Right, there you go.
This is the elbow moment. Okay.
Get it.
But they wouldn't. To your question, you said what man wouldn't want to, right? But they don't. They don't want to get that freaky with the woman that they're with, right? That's the best part of the problem.
It is. That's why I was shaking my head yes when he was saying that, the Madonna horror complex.
It's hard because it's hard to like view your woman as that, and then view her. Some dudes have a hard time separating that's the mother of my children making my kids pancakes in the morning, and I have my arm halfway up her ass the night before.
But it's because of outside information, not because what you think. It's literally because of outside information, because you heard somewhere that fisting a woman is something nasty women do, or you've only seen it in porn. I think that's what it is, because it doesn't change the woman. It's something you heard outside.
Yeah, and I want to say something.
One second, real quick. No saying. Fighter complex. She didn't peg him. Okay, she didn't peg him. That's the one thing about you guys. The moment somebody says some shit that's a little bit off color, you automatically hear, "Oh, he got pegged." He got pegged. Oh, now he just wanted to throw root beer on the stomach. No, she pegged him. No, it's just a little different. No one got pegged. It's okay.
What I want to say is, and it really, and that's why with Brianna, when she's asking, there's so much stuff that's mental. Like, I don't want to, like, the reason I went to a outside dominatrix, and she was aware of it. It's not like that I was doing this behind anybody's back. Was because I want the person doing that to me to have no care for me whatsoever. It's a mental thing. I want her to, when she's doing what she's doing, I don't want it to be like, oh, I'm hurting him, or I want it to be like, this is my thing. I want to do this, and this is, that's kind of one of the things. It's like, so did you
discuss having your wife be like dominant? Was she like, no, I can't beat you up?
She is kind of dominant.
Well, she's Latina. No, she's not.
Yeah. It's like you were saying, when you said you're naturally dominant and you make all these decisions and you have, and that's why I know you're kind of dominant. Like when I listen to you, I'm like, she's got a dominant personality.
Dudes need to realize, and I learned this a long time ago, and I actually learned it from Ice-T, was like, if your woman has something she wants you to do and you aren't down to do it, it doesn't stop her from wanting it. It just makes you look like the dude that's not going to do it for her.
Yeah.
And that's separate. So it's just like, if it's just your woman, you kind of got to like, just be like, look, if this is what you want, if you realistically really going to get some pleasure from this or something, is it going to be beneficial to you? I'm going to do that shit. If it's doing something to her, like you can have your own boundaries about your own. Well, you can have on budget what you do to her as well. But I'm just saying, but if she wants it, it'll never stop her from wanting it. She'll just be like, yeah, my husband ain't the one who's gonna stick his hand halfway up my ass, but I really want that hand halfway up my ass. So
no, I mean what you're saying, and listen, it's kind of weird. The more we're talking, and that for me, it's like I am kind of. I don't think I'm switched, but at the same time, there are times where I was being more dominant to her. Like there's things I like to be dominant with her with, but I can't be submissive to her because there's too much. She cares too much. It's kind of weird. It's a weird kink.
I get that, but again, that goes all the way back to our perceptions, right? So, like I tell my guys all the time that what you believe is what you perceive, and what you perceive dictates how you behave.
Yeah.
So, really, it's just looking at your beliefs and your perceptions, and challenging them, right? And they might fall apart, or you might discover that they're rock solid. Right. And so I would say that that's just an opportunity to investigate, right? Investigate yourself, investigate your beliefs around these sort of things to see, do they hold water or not? And if not, and then you've got like some discomfort around something, say, well, why do I have that discomfort? Why do I feel weird about being dominant over this person? What does that mean to me? Right. Why do I feel uncomfortable with that? Right. Because there is an answer. And it might be an answer that you don't know, or it could be an answer that you're avoiding, but only you can sort that out, right? And sometimes your partner might be able to help you out, right? But you know, a lot of times it's the answer's within you, and you can sort it out if you're not afraid to go digging.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to ask you, no, say, if this wasn't your wife of 20 years, if this was not a chick you just met or whatever, you're a chick, whatever you're kind of fucking around with or whatever, and she said that, do you feel like you would be comfortable with that because she's not your wife, or you just wouldn't be comfortable with, see, that's what I figured.
Yes. Right. So there it is, right? It's a belief surrounds a role.
Mm-hmm.
And what you think the concept of wife means, and what that means to you, mostly on an emotional level.
It means purity and all this kind of stuff. You wrapped up in that shit.
Right?
Like,
yeah. I mean,
but it's not.
I look at her and she's walking my kids to school, and the night before, but
it's not.
But you don't understand. She could walk the kids to school with a butt plug in.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
It doesn't have to stop. No, that you have on a remote control that has like a couple miles to it. She's just sitting there in bed going bzz, 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 right, and she's jumping all the way to school.
I just don't think it's not realistic. Those roles to me, you know what I mean, are not realistic. Like, people are people. You know what I mean? This right here, I wanted to debunk this. Namesmith says the internet caused a lot of women to be promiscuous because there are benefits to different dynamics. I'm like, is that what you think happened? The internet? You think the internet did that to women?
The internet created holes.
Video games
before that, it was rap music.
Okay.
Yeah. She was like,
it was the rap.
She was like,
your mama and your grandmama wasn't out here.
Exactly. Yeah. She was like, I was about to go to church, but the internet told me to go to the club. So there you go. You know? Go to this gangbang.
This is the problem, though. This is the problem right here, because this is one of the reasons why they get into these vanilla relationships. And I'm not knocking those kind of relationships. If that's your thing, that's your thing. But when you go into these kinds of relationships and you have these very just very sterile and very, unbendable ideas about sex and energies and so on and so forth, your life, your sex life can get very sterile, very quick, very boring, very quick. And people cling to these ideas, and they don't realize that what they're doing at the end of the day is that they're putting a cap on not only their partner, but themselves too. Yeah. Like, you might learn a lot of shit about yourself, man.
Yeah.
That you didn't even know that you like. Or you might find out some shit you don't like. You might find out you don't want to be with a woman. Hey, and that's your business. But anyway, the point I'm making is this. One of the main reasons, and I keep telling people, the main reasons why a lot of relationships don't work out, a lot of vanilla relationships, or even dominant relationships, BDSM relationships, people don't take the time out to sit down and figure out who they are first. They just grab these dynamics and grab these concepts and fill up this hole that they got in them, and they think it's just going to fix everything.
Or they grab a label real fast.
Right. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it just ends up making things worse.
Yeah. It's funny because like I remember I was watching OG Jim Brown, and he said it would be a shame to go through life your entire life without learning what really turns you on, because that is a
Yeah,
wasted portion of your experience on this earth. You wasted a
absolutely.
that's just, you just totally wasted a part of their experience. Like, and especially now being atheist, I'm like, you got to know what your thing is, because this is all you got, you know. So
Right.
you need to
Yeah,
figure out what
but
your shit is in most aspects of your life.
just like with when Jen talks about the Tinder and things like that, women really are in an advantage in this niche as well, because it's much easier. Like Jen can make a ton of money off of it,
Absolutely.
and she likes a man is gonna have to pay a ton of money or find that right person out there. And I was gonna ask a question to both of you guys, like, is it, well, you're teaching, but Haran, you do it for I mean, you do it not for a living.
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
curious, do you charge?
No, no, no,
Oh, you
no.
don't
That's
charge.
just
Okay.
no. That's just
That's just
something that's a
freebie.
yeah. That's just
That's what
that's
he
just my
likes. That's
life.
what he
Yeah,
likes.
that's my. But I don't do it with everyone. You know what I mean? I'll have like at most in the past I've had like at most like 3 subs. You know what I mean?
I
Right
mean,
now I have.
this is interesting, and I want to say, and I love being in these on the block YouTube streets, because that's another thing that I think black people are put in a box, like that's the white people shit.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
So because if I
yeah,
actually sat down and tried to teach this shit, especially the black people, ain't nobody checking for me. You know what I mean? Because in the chat, as a matter of fact, I caught someone saying that, hey, this sounds interesting, but it's only a gateway to deviance. Okay, why does it have to be? Why do you immediately your mind goes to something
Judgments.
deviant? Exactly,
Uh-huh.
deviant, dark, and judgmental. And this is the reason why you probably don't even know who you are.
Right.
So people
Oh,
hide, but they find a little spot that they know in life that's everyone agrees with, is acceptable, and they stay there
Hmm.
until they die.
Yep.
I'm not that kind of person. There's many spots out here in the world that I can say, oh yeah, I like this, I like that. I don't dig this, I don't dig that. And then within that circumference, I begin to start learning more about myself. Like, first of all, I haven't, just to let everyone know, I have not mastered the lifestyle. The lifestyle, in my opinion, can't be mastered.
No,
I'm
it's
constantly
infinite.
learning. Yeah, I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly talking to other guys. You know what I mean? I'm seeing certain things. You know what I mean? I'm learning that some subs are different from others. It's a constant experience, and the constant learning and the constant letting go of some ideas that I might have had 4 years ago, because I want to become this particular kind of, person or dom.
Yeah. Well, you just keep, it's like peeling layers of an onion
Right,
on yourself, and you keep going and going and going. And like, dang, like 6 layers ago, I thought that was me.
right,
Hmm.
You know what I'm
right.
saying? And you just keep going through it, because a lot of this has to do with self-discovery, self-analysis, self-testing, right? Because there is a lot of challenging of pressure points, both
Mhm,
physically, emotionally, psychologically, and investigating things and leaning in a safe and sane way. Okay.
mhm.
And I wanted to mention something that I read a report where it was a study done on lifestyle couples and non-lifestyle couples, and they found that the trust levels were way higher in a DS relationship versus a
Mm.
non-DS relationship, and the cortisol stress levels were way lower
Oh.
in a DS relationship, because we're always pushing, like, about putting ourselves into stressful situations, either like on either end of the whip, right? And because it can be very challenging for people on the handle side of the crop, to be like, I am beating the fucking shit out of my woman's ass right now, and some guys afterwards, they'll have this incredible feeling of remorse, right? and be like, holy shit, like their sub is fine, right? Like they're, relatively speaking, like within the confines, they're okay, but they're still dealing with that sort of thing. And then it's like, well, that's an opportunity. Like it's not a thing to like fall into guilt, fall into shame, because that's what we have been doing for years, is challenging guilt and shame. So we're used to it. And so like, okay, well, why am I feeling like this? And then after, some care and recovery and everybody's back to, baseline, then say, hey, let's talk about this, because I was experiencing this kind of weird thing. And I just want to talk to you about my experience on this end. Right. And then, the submissive, they can go through their versions, like their heightened levels of stress and adrenaline and psychological states. And it puts them into sometimes challenging places or completely relieving places. We haven't even, like, I don't know if you touched on subspace or anything like that, but that's a completely different topic. But what I'm saying is that in the lifestyle, we lean in. There's a almost a drive to lean in, right? And just put pressure on certain things. And that's why. And whereas vanilla relationships, they're very much avoidant, right? The carpets in these relationships have this giant mound, right? Where they've swept years and years and years of shit, right? And they're tripping over it. They turn it into a piece of furniture. They're like, hey, isn't that beautiful? Their family comes over, oh, look at that table. They're like, no, that's our mound. And it becomes normalized that of just like ignore, avoid, conflict avoidant, because that means that I'm going to have to investigate myself, right? I'm gonna have to be accountable. And it's like, when you're fucking, you've got this woman tied up to a cross on the wall, and you screw up, you have to be completely accountable, completely, right?
Exactly.
So there's this very, very clear arena of like, there's no skirting around it. You know what I'm saying? Like you bruise someone too badly, it's like, yeah, you gotta fucking own that. You forgot about aftercare, you have to fucking own that, right? And it's like, you get into a situation, vanilla relationship, there's no such thing as aftercare, right? Where you separate yourself from what was done in order to bring someone else back to a state of feeling safe and comfortable and, normal.
I mean, it sounds like a nice experience just listening to it, because you get the excitement, you have the trust, and then the aftercare. I know, Haran, you spoke on the aftercare is usually a sponge bath. Are there other types of aftercare?
Yeah, it depends on
like
what you want to do.
towels and stuff like that.
Yeah, that depends on the dom. Like that's what I want to do. You know what I mean? You have some people who just hold the person.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's just dependent. It's not. There are some things should be expected, but I would say there's no hard and fast rules per se.
No.
Like, Justin might have a way of doing certain things that bring out a particular outcome. We both might be interested in a particular outcome, but he has a method of doing things, and I have a method of doing things. That doesn't mean that either one of us is wrong. It's just how we run our house.
Okay, so holding, baths after, what else?
You can, my femdom, she like covers me with like hot towels, rinses me off, holds me, that kind of stuff. And then, I've even asked her, because there's aftercare for the dom. And like she's had me like massage her feet and stuff like that. And so that's something that happened. One thing, Jen, if I could,
wearing
real
like
quick,
8-inch stilettos.
She took them off. Yeah. So they Jen, I was going to tell you, you mentioned about guys who get into this and they won't do it because their wives won't let them. My femdom, she talks about, she has a lot of clients that are like that their wives just won't do it, or they're scared to tell them, and so they do it on the side, and so
I don't think that's healthy.
Yeah, yeah. There's
That's
some
why
other
I
shit
don't
going on.
understand I don't understand the way people do marriage and use marriage a lot, because there's so many other people that know much more about your spouse than you do, and you have to be with
Right.
that person forever. You took vows with that person, but their best friend knows more than you do, their siblings know more than you do, their doms know more than you do. That's why I don't get it. Like if I was to lock in with someone, we'd have to be open books on both ends. And if anything makes you squeamish,
Hmm.
you know what I mean?
Well,
I'd find out beforehand.
You got to
Heron
study
or
your
Justin,
partner.
can you talk about safe,
Mhm.
sane, and consensual? What that is and all that,
Yeah,
because that's like a big
go
thing.
for it. Yep, that is. Go for it.
Oh yeah, Jen, that's a big thing about BDSM is that it's all this about. You've heard it talked about that you come to an agreement. Is that about? It's called safe, sane, and consensual. And the big thing is like you you both of you decide what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, and then you consent, and that you always, as say you're the sub, right? You've always
Mhm.
got the right to revoke your consent at any time. And so another thing you'll hear them talk about is safe words. Like my dom uses colors, like the stop light, red, yellow, green, that kind of thing. And if you call red, then the action stops. And at least that's what she does with me. And
Mhm.
then you either she brings you back in or stuff like that. But I was just going to say, Justin, if somebody's new, like I found a femdom, but for someone like Jen, should she go to out there in Vegas? You probably have like all kinds of BDSM
I'm
dungeons and
sure.
stuff. So
I'm sure.
yeah, it go to like a munch or some sort of or just go to the kink the local
Wait a
kink and
minute.
just get involved.
Wait a minute now. I'm not, wait a minute. How did I get
You don't. You
involved?
don't have. Yeah. For example, yeah,
Yeah,
you're saying
for
just a
example.
new person.
Okay.
Yeah, let's say a new person. Yeah, let's
Yeah,
do that.
like it can be difficult because there's some. It's almost like people in the lifestyle take it as a green light to be even more strange than you actually than they are. So, well, no, they actually are, but it's like a green light to like let everything go, and there, like seriously, there's some really fucking strange people in this lifestyle, and like incredibly socially inept, incredibly.
Ooh.
And it's like it's off-putting, or like they lack like just social understanding or social graces. You'll see it all over the place online where just say like in a Facebook group, right? A young lady will put up a post asking a question or just describing something completely benign, like, "Hey, I'm looking for another great online source for decent vibrators," right? And then some dude will jump in there and be like, "Hey, can I DM you?" It's like she had nothing to say about that. She just said, "I'm looking for vibrators," right? And then he's like, "You're really cute,"
Yeah.
and it's like, "Whoa, dude, this is like, where are you going with this?" Right? Or even like more out there where they'll be like, please, what would it take for you to sit on my face, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and just like completely out of the blue, out of context, lacking social tact, any of this stuff. So what I would say is like a good thing, like you mentioned, munches. And you can find munches in your local area.
What's a munch?
It's a non-lifestyle, visually non-lifestyle gathering of lifestylers. So people who are in DS relationships or live some portion of a kink lifestyle, you get together in regular clothes at a regular place and you hang out and talk to each other. You network, become friends, have drinks, eat food, whatever. And it's just a way of just kind of rubbing shoulders with people who are into at least somewhat similar things that you are, without having any kind of pressure of like, oh my gosh, I'm at a sex club, what do I do?
So I got a DM on January 22nd, and I told I told Haran about this DM. Someone DM'd me and said, "Sup, girl, I need a Latina dom. Let me give you some money. What am I supposed to make of that DM?
Like, here's my cash app.
Like, and of course it's a catfish page or whatever. But I'm like, no conversation, nothing. Just, sup, girl, I need a Latina dom. Let me give you some money.
And that is a real thing. Okay. But that falls under, what I think what George was mentioning is the safe part. Okay. So in order to be safe, that includes safety on a number of levels. So imagine they weren't asking for money, but they wanted you to step on their balls, right? Or something else, like they wanted to be caned. And so you'd be thinking twice, like, I don't know this person. I don't know their limits. I know nothing about them. I know, like, there's nothing there. And they want me to do something to them. And that can be dangerous. And on this level, it's financially dangerous. It could be psychologically dangerous. You have no clue whatsoever. And so I think that would, so in those situations, it's like, is there could be a moral thing going on, like should you or shouldn't you? And there's also a safety concern there because, like, are you doing what's best for that person, or are you doing what you think might be best for you?
Right. And I would never, if I were to venture into something like this, I would never do it like with some random idiot.
Right. Because they're not getting your consent either. Right. So for all sorts of domination, whether it's like, say if it is FinDom, you both have to be consenting to the whatever action is desired. It could be send me $100 a week. And it's like, well, if you both, the giver and the receiver, have to consent to that.
Brienne had a question.
I do. I have a question. I don't think anyone's mentioned Valentine's Day because that's obviously coming up. With this particular dynamic, does it change during the holidays? Like, does it get heightened? Is there like more going on these holidays?
I don't celebrate it. I don't celebrate it. It's just construct.
Oh, I don't either. I don't do any other holidays.
I only stress birthdays. That's just it. Valentine's Day, and every other minute there's some sort of commercial way to basically break your pockets in America. So
yeah, in 2022, I think it's $23.9 billion was spent on Valentine's Day. Okay, you're getting manipulated, folks.
Yeah.
That's funny. I talk about that all the time.
So
it's the end of the cuffing season. Valentine's Day is. That's the close of it right there.
When you really think about it, there's such big business in getting people together and breaking people up. I mean, America just runs on this economic machine of just of allowing people to live out their fantasies and just fucking destroying them. You know what I mean? And then after that, after they're destroyed, here's some medication.
There you go.
Right.
There you go. Everybody's getting a piece. That's what I said. Marriage, the whole relationship.
Exactly. Are you depressed after that divorce?
Industries. Listen,
pop.
Industries are built on the whole cycle of relationships, marriages, and divorces. I mean, there's people making millions or billions of dollars. What I want to say, what George said is, and I think everybody's alluding to. Yeah, it's really interesting because, like, obviously a female takes a lot of precautions because she doesn't want to have, you don't want a client to be a serial killer and take you out, right? So it was interesting because I had to fill out a lot of stuff, my address, everything like that. Then I had to give her my phone number to my work, and she asked me where I was, and she called the job, and all she did was ask if I was there. Oh, he's not working today. Okay. That was one. Yeah. I mean, she went through a whole list, of things you have to do.
So it's super detailed.
Yes.
Yeah. Covering her own ass is what she's doing. Yep.
Yeah.
So for anybody listening that's going to do this, that is what you have to do. Right? Do all doms basically have those rules? Like, I need to know who and where you are, and
not necessarily, but I think part of being dominant is being observant, being watchful. and just thinking about contingencies,
Mhm.
having a strong awareness of what if,
Mhm.
but not to the point of being paranoid, just being prepared, having a prepared mindset. You know, I want to be a couple of steps ahead just in case, right? But it can be taken too far. You know, I'm working with a guy pretty soon, and he takes it too far. Like he comes from a military background, and
Uh-oh.
you know,
Uh-oh.
and so
And you have a
he's like,
security clearance.
right, exactly. So he's hyper vigilant to the point where it stifles his creativity, right? So he's got too much control, and he's not able to really express himself.
Right.
And that's where his problem is.
So can
This
I be
is
a
an art,
dom with
though.
my can I be a dom with my gun on my holster? Is that too much? Is that too much?
Whatever you guys agree to.
Yeah, whatever you agree
guys
to.
agree
I would, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Can I
mean,
make a
I
comment?
mean, maybe you just have it unloaded, and it's just there for shock value, right?
Right.
You know,
Oh,
like for example,
okay.
okay, so here's a great example of something similar to that, right? So like knife play. Knife play is like really popular, right? It's a very common thing, and because it creates a visceral. It's very visceral, right? Like guns are like, ooh, scary, but it's at a distance. There's a difference between having a gun to your head and a knife to your throat, right? Very, very
Real
different.
big difference.
Okay. Because you're gonna feel that blade dragging through your flesh. The gun's like
That's
instant. You know what I mean?
true. Mhm.
So, you know, there's this fun thing. It's common, but you know, you have the sub in a position where they cannot move, right? And I'm a big proponent of always showing what you're going to play with before you play with it. Okay, that's one of my practices. So if they're going to get a certain flogger, they're going to get a paddle. They see it first, so there's no surprises, right? They can get geared up for like, oh, this is going to be a thud, this is going to be a sting, or whatever. Anyways, so like you could take out like a big ass knife, right? And you let them see it, and they're bound up, and it's like, oh shit, like that's a real fucking sharp ass knife. You could demonstrate on something how sharp it is, and like, wow, okay, this could easily fillet you instantly. Blindfold goes on, you put the knife away, and then you take out, like, say, a butter knife, right? The kinds that don't have the ridges on them, right? It's just like flat all the way around. And you start using that with knife play. So in their minds, the last image they saw was this big ass Bowie knife. And they're thinking, okay, they're going to use this on me. So in their head, you're dragging this knife all over their body. And basically, like, you know, it's like a little bit of like psychological blackmail mind fuck. So to their experience, they're having this big emotional experience, but there's absolutely no danger involved whatsoever.
Holy crap.
If y'all don't mind, I'll run through my first experience in BDSM real quick and what I really liked about it. So basically, I was like completely new, apprehensive. I show up. She had me stripped down, butt ass naked, you know, all the way. And that was like at first I was like really uncomfortable. And then I thought to myself, you know, look, George, she has seen like hundreds of swinging dicks. You're not anything special, you know, or not, you know. So it was no big deal. She was a real professional. And so anyhow, she like flogged me, Jen, and then took out the paddle. She used like she actually she did peg me. She did that. I asked her to do that too. So and and I was like, yeah. I said, hey, let's go for
it. Dude, you're
showing
a lot. That's awesome.
And so
I love it.
Like, really, yeah.
Very good, yeah.
And so my best part of the experience is when I was going to say this is that since she knew that I was a masochist, she started like tied me down on a table and she started biting me and like scratching and clawing and all that kind of stuff. And it was like, it brought out like a primal thing in me. And it was like a real strong reaction. And it was like, but at the end of it, you know, what happened is that I went to this it could have been just the adrenaline and everything, but I went to this real peaceful state. And
euphoria
when I went home, and I can literally remember when I went home and I went to sleep, I kind of, you know how you wake up in the middle of the night kind of thing. I noticed I was smiling. I could tell I was like It was like really, it's, I guess the sum of total of it is it can be a really positive experience. And in my case, in certain situations, it was cathartic.
That's cool. Yeah, Brienne just has like a note. You're thinking like sensory play. There's also what George is just bringing up. Like there's the less sensual and fun stuff is different types of fun, right? So the biting, scratching, that sort of stuff, which is
We have
also
a small problem already with the sensory play. I was texting my husband just, hey, can you look this up? Someone said to look this up. And he said, I don't think that's right, because ironically enough, as soon as he typed it in, he said just a bunch of baby videos came up of how to do sensory play with your baby, different toys and techniques. And he's like, you wanted me to look up stuff for the baby or for us? I'm confused.
Look sensory deprivation.
Yeah,
Tell them to look under that.
No, do the
say that one more time.
Sensory deprivation.
They do that in the military,
right? Or
SEAL training.
Sensory play BDSM to kind of like
there you go.
Bring it on home.
Do sensory play BDSM. Because sensory deprivation, it could take you to the tanks where you're just floating.
That's
and
true too.
There's water.
Yes.
So do sensory deprivation BDSM.
Right, or sensory play BDSM.
I think we might get hit
sensory
this
play.
time. Okay.
He's probably like, what are we doing with the baby?
Well, while we're getting onto like first experiences, I actually exercised my first dominance as a paid service, but non-physical. It was for women, and it was verbal. So it was like basically like a phone sex line.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, and they would pay for my time. It was like either 30 minutes or an hour, or they could add on after that hour. And it would either be dominance, just like straight dominance, or it would be me walking through a fantasy. And it could be like a very benign fantasy, or it could be like, unicorns and dragons or whatever. And so it was domination just through my voice. And it was a lot of fun. But you have to have, the creative mindset. You got to have a good mouthpiece. But that was my first was a paid gig that I started on my own, because I got into like writing a lot of like erotica, and I really enjoy writing erotica. And then I was sharing it with some women just to get their perspective on it, like how they were experiencing. And they're like, oh, I really like this. This is good. You should like do more with this. And so I just started up a little service, and I was just getting paid to get women off with my voice.
Holy hell. I like that.
I have a thought on that, because my husband and I like to watch like anime. So is that what you're talking about? Like you said, dragons and type of things like that. So.
Well, just in the sense that a fantasy that I walked them through could have been something very regular life. Like man, woman, a pool hall, bathroom, whatever. I mean, just regular stuff. Or it could be like we're in this dystopian, futuristic city, and then there's a story that's based off of that environment with certain things that are not real, right? Or you're an elf and you're getting pinned down by a bunch of goblins. I don't know.
I love that, because my first crush, everybody knows, but
was it goblin?
No, close. But if anybody remembers the movie Legend with Tom Cruise,
of course.
Okay, well, Darkness.
The devil. Oh, God.
I mean, I have it so bad for Darkness. You don't understand.
Right. And see, that's what guys don't understand. They think the Prince Charming is the hero. The real hero is the villain.
Yes. Like, and my little girlfriends were like, oh, look, Tom Cruise. I was like, that guy, the big red guy with the horns. That's my guy.
Yep.
That's my guy. So, or Venom from, the comic books. Or whatever.
Yeah.
Those are my guys.
The villain is the only one really truly free in those situations. The hero is constrained by all these moral boundaries. The villain is like,
well, and he's doing it all for the woman too.
Right.
Villain is doing what he's doing for him on his mission and all this. And he's like, I'll take the woman, but I don't need her.
And that's what women find sexy.
Uh-huh.
I mean, but that's what Darkness was. Darkness was all about, sit and talk with me. You know what I mean? So like I make you want, I mean, to this day, I got it bad for darkness. You know, the villain, he's ready to use the fist. No Saint, I want you to get in there. Next Freaky Friday, I want to see a stained elbow. Okay.
Oh.
Come on, No Saint, I'm rooting for you.
So let's see pruny fingers.
Okay. Guys, this was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed Freaky Friday, please hit that like and subscribe. Make sure to follow the people on my panel. Mr. Justin, one more time, where can they find you on Instagram?
I do have a YouTube channel, but the best way to get to that and everything else is my Instagram, and that's just Mr. Justin _X. And then in my bio is a link, and you can just get to everything from there. I got dating information. I've got my course online, my personal coaching, as well as my YouTube channel.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here. This was very interesting. I learned some things. I'm sure everybody else did. So hit up Mr. Justin. George, thank you for being so transparent. That was fucking awesome.
I gotta give you a round of applause for that, man.
Yeah, man. Really? I mean, seriously, because I mean, basically, one of the problems when you like kind of these things that are outside the Puritan culture we have in this country is he comes out and says it without really having any reservations about it, and that's not easy to do. That's really not easy to do.
To give you an idea about how I am, I've jumped out of perfectly working airplanes. And I ride motorcycles. And love motorcycles.
So. I ride as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So getting pegged is less dangerous than riding a motorcycle.
Yeah. Well, you know, and I got to tell you, I watched 50 Shades of Grey.
No one's died from pegging.
No.
Right. And she, you know, but anyway, it was really pretty cool. And I found it, I hate to use the word liberating, but it was, because the other thing too is that I liked about it is I got this thing for latex and leather. I like both. And she had on this great latex outfit, and God, she's drop dead gorgeous. I mean,
smoking,
you know. Yeah.
Well, I want to bring something out, and I'm curious to think what the panel think. Like the dominatrix that I went to, she was Latina. I'll say that, but she wasn't. I wasn't really super attracted to her. I mean, she was. You know, if I had to give it from 1 to 10, I'd say, you know, maybe a 5. You know what I mean? Not ugly, not gorgeous. You know what I'm saying? But it didn't really matter to me. I mean, it doesn't. To me, it's not what the person. That's what this whole thing's about. It's like you don't necessarily even have to be attracted to the person. It's more what they can do to your mind. Mm-hmm. For me.
Yes, that the average person just can't.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I can vouch for that.
Yeah, you'll see sides of yourself that you never saw. That's the other thing I liked about it. You actually come to a better, at least I did, a better understanding of myself. So that's where I'm. Oh yeah, that's Justin, awesome. I sent you a request. So
cool.
Hopefully we can go there.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we'll connect.
All right, guys, This was awesome. And for anyone lurking and peeking in, do not slide in my DMs unless you're willing to dress up as darkness. Again, don't waste your time or my time. Let's not waste each other's time here. Okay, that's what I'm into. All right, guys, thank you so much. This was amazing. Don't forget next Freaky Friday, but we're on every day starting on Tuesday, and we'll be back tomorrow. But these are always fun. These are our Freaky Fridays, and this one was the best one thus far, if I say so myself.
It was a good time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Justin. Please feel free to come back any Freaky Friday, plug yourself. I don't care. Pause. Don't plug yourself.
Don't plug myself.
Don't plug yourself. Come back any Freaky Friday. We're always talking about sex and body parts, good times, bad times, and all that yummy stuff. Come back any Friday. All right, guys. Thank you so much for this evening.
Thanks a lot, everyone. I appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you all.
Have a great night.
I love you all.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
All right, guys, was that not amazing? I told you there is no other show on YouTube like On the Block with Jen. Thank you so much for joining us this Freaky Friday. Every Friday is Freaky on the Block. Hit that like and subscribe. Share this with your friends and your family. Share this with your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your slide, your sneaky link, whoever you're with. We learned tonight, we laughed tonight, and that's every Freaky Friday. Don't forget to follow Mr. Justin. Gracias. That would be really, really cool if you did that for me. Okay. Rewind if you missed his Instagram handle. Okay. All right, guys. Good night. Enjoy the rest of your Friday night. And I will see you guys tomorrow. And we'll have Lily back. Lily was not with us tonight because she has to work. So we will all be back here tomorrow having another good time. All right, guys. Good night. Be good. Hit that like and subscribe for me. Okay. And feel free to tell your friends to subscribe too. All right, guys. Good night. Hope you enjoyed. I did.